The subtle pacing technique that forces others to value your time. There is a way to make people respect your time without ever asking for it. No confrontation, no demands, no reminders, no explanations. Just a shift in how you move, how you respond, and how you allow others to experience your availability. Most people try to gain respect by speaking about it, but respect for time is rarely created through words. It is created through pacing. Pacing is not about speed. It is about control of rhythm. It is about deciding when something starts, when it continues, and when it ends. And the person who controls the rhythm of interaction quietly controls the value of their presence. Because in human behavior, what is scarce becomes valuable, and what is constantly available becomes invisible. The mistake most people make is overavailability. They respond too quickly. They accept interruptions without resistance. They adjust their schedule instantly to accommodate others. They believe this shows professionalism, kindness, or dedication. But what it often creates is the opposite. It signals that their time has no boundary. And when there is no boundary, there is no perceived cost in using it. The subtle pacing technique reverses this completely. It does not reject people. It does not create conflict. It simply introduces a controlled delay, a structured response, and a clear rhythm that others begin to adapt to. And once others adapt to your rhythm, they begin to respect it. One of the simplest forms of pacing is response timing. When you answer immediately, you teach others that immediate access is normal. When you introduce a delay, not an artificial one, but a consistent one, you change expectation. Now your response becomes something that arrives, not something that is always present. This small shift alone can change how people perceive your importance. For example, someone sends a message asking for your input. If your pattern is instant reply, they will continue expecting that speed. But if your pattern is structured response, perhaps you reply at specific intervals or after completing your current task, they begin to understand that your time is organized. You are not reacting. You are operating on your own timeline. Another layer of pacing is conversational control. Many people allow conversations to drift without structure. They respond to every point, every tangent, every emotional shift. This creates an open loop where the other person sets the pace. But when you subtly guide the flow by summarizing, redirecting, or closing topics, you take control of the rhythm. For instance, instead of continuing a long back and forth, you might say, "Let's finalize this point and move forward." This is not aggressive. It is directional. It signals that time has structure. And once that structure is introduced, others begin to align with it. Pacing also appears in how you handle requests. When someone asks for something, the instinct is often to answer immediately, yes, no, or explanation. But immediate answers remove space. And space is what creates weight. When you pause, even briefly, you signal that the request is being considered, not automatically absorbed. That pause changes perception. It communicates that your time is not freely transferable. It has to be evaluated, scheduled, and integrated. And that process alone increases its value in the eyes of others. There is also the strategic use of endings. People who struggle with time respect often have difficulty ending interactions. They extend conversations. They allow meetings to run over. They remain available even when the purpose has been fulfilled. This creates a pattern where others assume your time can always stretch. But controlled endings redefine this. When you close interactions clearly, "We will continue this tomorrow," or "That covers what we needed," you establish limits without conflict. You show that time is segmented. It has edges. And once people experience those edges consistently, they stop expecting unlimited access. Mid-video pattern break. The moment you stop chasing efficiency for others and start protecting rhythm for yourself, people begin adjusting to you instead of the other way around. Another powerful aspect of pacing is emotional neutrality. Many people accelerate their responses when pressure appears. Urgency from others creates urgency within them. But this is often where time value is lost. When someone else's urgency dictates your pace, you are no longer in control. The subtle technique is to remain steady regardless of external pressure. If something is truly urgent, it will remain urgent even after a structured response. But if the urgency fades when you do not react instantly, it was not urgency, it was pressure. And by not absorbing that pressure, you train others to distinguish between the two. In professional environments, This becomes extremely powerful. A person who moves with controlled pacing is perceived as stable, deliberate, and focused. They do not rush into decisions. They do not react impulsively. They process, then respond. And this creates a perception of authority, even without a formal title. In contrast, someone who is always reacting appears accessible, but not necessarily valuable. Their time is easy to obtain, easy to interrupt, and easy to redirect. Over time, this reduces perceived importance, even if their actual work is high quality. Pacing also affects how interruptions are handled. If every interruption is accepted immediately, interruptions multiply. But if interruptions are acknowledged and then scheduled, "I will get back to you in an hour," or "let's address this after I finish this task," you introduce order. This does not reject the other person. It organizes the interaction. An organization creates respect because it shows that your time is already allocated, not empty and waiting to be filled. Another layer is consistency. Pacing only works if it becomes predictable. If you sometimes respond instantly and sometimes delay randomly, others cannot adapt. But if your rhythm becomes stable, people learn it. They begin to anticipate your timing. And once anticipation replaces assumption, respect begins to form. In personal relationships, pacing has a different but equally powerful effect. Constant availability can reduce emotional value, not because presence is wrong, but because unstructured presence removes anticipation. When you are always there, there is no sense of arrival. But when interaction has rhythm, time together, time apart, clear beginnings and endings, it creates space for appreciation. The person does not just experience you, they wait for you. And that waiting increases perceived value without any need for manipulation. This is often misunderstood as distance or withdrawal. But true pacing is not about absence. It is about intentional presence. When you are there, you are fully there. When you are not partially available. You are focused elsewhere. That clarity creates balance. One of the strongest indicators that your pacing is working is a shift in how others approach you. They begin to plan instead of assume. They ask instead of demand. They respect timing instead of expecting instant access. And this shift happens without confrontation because it is learned through experience. To apply this technique, you do not need dramatic changes. You need small, consistent adjustments. Delay responses slightly. Close conversations clearly. Structure your availability. Do not absorb urgency automatically. Allow space before decisions. These are subtle actions, but they accumulate. And over time, something important happens. You stop feeling rushed. You stop feeling pulled in multiple directions. You begin to experience your time as something you manage, not something others consume. Because the real purpose of pacing is not to control others. It is to control your own rhythm. And when your rhythm becomes stable, others have no choice but to align with it or move away from it. People value what they cannot easily access. But more importantly, they value what is clearly defined. When your time has structure, it becomes visible. When it becomes visible, it becomes respected. The subtle pacing technique does not force others through pressure. It guides them through consistency. It teaches them how to interact with you by showing them what is possible and what is not. And once that lesson is learned, you no longer need to defend your time. You no longer need to explain your boundaries. Your rhythm speaks for you. That is when something shifts. Your presence becomes intentional. Your responses become deliberate. Your time becomes protected without resistance. And in that space, respect is no longer requested. It is assumed. The end.